And all these legal documents are what have imprisoned you from the beginning. You were imprisoned when you were born. You are owned by the state.
It's true that the birth registry did begin before 1933. However, 1933 is when they started monetizing us and pledging us as collateral for the debt. Now, to register, the word register means to abandon. Yeah. And when you register a car or a birth or a house, you're giving it to the government. You're giving your legal title to the government, and you only retain equitable title, which means that you have the use of that property. The government allows you to use it, thinking that you own it. Clear evidence of this is anyone who owns a house, look at their mortgage, and you're referred to as the tenant. Not the owner, the tenant. So if you think you own your house, you're mistaken. Same with your car. The reason why they can impound your car is because you registered it, and under maritime admiralty salvage laws, they come along and they adopt it. In the case of the birth registry, they adopt the abandoned child. Now, when you apply for something, apply means to beg. So many people have come up to me and said, how do I apply for my freeman status? Well, you don't ask your controllers to make you free. You learn that you are free, and you just learn how to. You got to spend a lot of time finding stuff out, because everything you're going to learn is going to conflict with everything you already knew.
One of the questions that's come up, if you have any info on when you said that the Canada could be the 13th district of the Federal Reserve.
Canada is the 13th Federal Reserve District. Yes, it is.
Would you classify the Bank of Canada as equal to one of the 12 Federal Reserve District banks? Like, would Mark Carney be the same as like the head of the New York Federal Reserve District?
Well, I know that all currency is loaned into existence. And in Canada, we have the ability to have it loaned to us by our own Bank of Canada. And that's not being done. And as a result, our government, when it needs money, rather than just printing it up and using it, they turn around and borrow it from private banks, which are owned.
I can also add that we have to realize, what does owned mean? The ownership situation is achieved through treaties, through contracts. And we say that we have a Bank of Canada that's publicly owned, and that prints money for us, and that should print all of our money, but is printing less and less as we borrow from foreign banks to put us more in debt and under their control.
Another thing that came up was somebody was wondering about the CUSIP number was on the documents.
Some people pronounce it CUSIP, CUSIP, CUSIP. If you're a stock trader, you'll call it CUSIP. If you're just an ignorant guy like me, you'll pronounce it the way it looks. But yeah, all securities require a CUSIP, and that's the number that doesn't seem to be related to anything. It's different from the registration number. It's not made up of birth dates or anything. And it doesn't have to start with an A. A lot of them start with B's. Mine happens to start with an A, but all securities require a CUSIP number. The birth certificate is like a bond, a stock. It's created 7 days after you're born, too. You look at my statement of birth, and I look at the registration date on my birth certificate, and there's a 7-day lapse there. Why the 7-day lapse? You know, because it's counterfeit. That's why. It's because it's counterfeit.
One of these conspiracies that I was thinking about is, if this is getting big worldwide and all these people aren't a citizen of the country they're in, or they're a sovereign person, do you think that this could eventually lead to dissolving of the borders and like having like a one world government?
I do. I have recently seen some stuff that leads me to believe that yes, the Freeman movement is also being hijacked in a way to, as with anything, in order to sell a lie, you got to mix it in with a lot of truth. I've concluded that this vast amount of alternative information that's just being we're being bombarded with it. And I've come to this conclusion, Daniel. The New World Order doesn't care if we know 9/11 was an inside job. They don't care if we know that we're under chemical attack. with the chemtrails. They don't care if we know there's fluoride in the water and that there's aspartame poisoning us. They draw the line at one thing. There's only one thing they don't want us to know about. And that's this dude who lived 2,000 years ago. We can know about everything else, but not that dude. Now, it's obvious that there's a huge effort being put forth to prevent us from knowing about that dude. So you got to ask yourself, why?
Like I said, you were signed away at your birth. And you have been, when you become an adult, you have been signing away all your stuff. Even when you buy a house, you sign to be the tenant of the property. You don't own the property, you're the tenant. So you pay the bills and you pay the mortgage, and all these legal terms cost you money. You money, the person that is supposed to be alive and free to breathe and whatever. But they don't want you to know these secrets that are hidden in plain sight. You are signing all these documents. This is why your signature is so powerful. They want you to sign for every single thing, because you are committing everything to your legal entity. That's why every document or everything you buy that is of a great significance, you need your previous document, like a driver's license or your birth certificate or even your passport or your citizenship. These are some of the most prevalent and strongest documents of the dead straw person. So this is a tide. This is the main hold of this construct of how the world uses you in your fake freedom world. You should learn more about it, especially for legal reasons. If you learn about law even, and you don't take care of your own self, it's basically 3 against 1 when you go into a courtroom. And when I say 3 against 1, I'm talking about your own lawyer is not really on your side. Okay? If you got a lot of money, you can buy your way into getting off your charges, because it's a money system that is made to strip you blind. Just think, how is it? Let me just tell you something. Why is it that if you have great earnings, like a boxer, like I said, like Mike Tyson, for example, and Mike Tyson goes to a club and somebody provokes him to punch him. So Mike gets up because the guy is being rude and punches him, and the guy stands up, I'm going to sue you. So now this guy can sue him for as much as he sees fit. He says, I'm suing you for $10 million. But for the average Joe like me, I don't have anything that you can sue me for, because I'm not rich. And he comes in and he's going to say he's going to sue me. And I say, okay, you're going to sue me for what? and he'll say, oh, I'm going to sue you for $1,000. He can't get anything else out of me, but I just committed the same crime as Mike Tyson. This system was made to bring everybody down to their knees, no matter what you earn. It's a system it's a system for the blind that can't really see or feel, because you're being railroaded. You're meant to be railroaded from the day you were born, no matter how much you can say you do for the world.
So we look at politics as pertaining policy, an administration of a government, a plan or a course of action, also defined as a political party, corporation, written contract or a certificate of insurance. Acts of Parliament become statutes, primary legislation. You know what legislation is? You've heard this word, yeah? In turn are enacted, enforced by statutory instruments, which are secondary legislation. Council tax is a statutory instrument enacted on the 1st of April 1993 under the primary legislation, the Local Government Finance Act of 1992. But when we look at a statutory instrument, we find it's a created, written, legal contract. It's not law. Where does it say it's law? Can you see it? Society. So I'm going to look at society and the contracts. Society, the socially dominant members of a community. Does this country have a socially dominant element who want to stay socially dominant? It is a number of persons united by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine and jointly act for a common purpose. Contract is an agreement between two or more persons that creates or modifies an existing relationship. Offer, consideration and acceptance must be there or exist for a contract to be made. Then we look at a constitution, the fundamental rules, written or unwritten, which John explained earlier, that establishes the character of a government by defining the basic principles society must conform to. Do you have to conform to things? Do you? Do you pay tax? No. You don't? Join the club. You were not given a choice if you wanted to join this society. It was made for you at the time when you could not express a choice. So when we look at the word statute, I know I like this one, a legislative rule of society given the force of law by the consent of the governed. And I ask you, please, if you could explain to me where in that definition taken from Black's Law Dictionary that says that statute is law. The force of law, but it's not law.
What's the difference?
Right. I will get to that, not quite yet, but I will get to it. Everybody must know this word status. Is what our society, what does it rely on? Status. That's what we want to do, don't we? We want to be better in status. More money, bigger car, bigger this, bigger that, better than next door neighbour. That's the word, status. And it all comes from this. Status is the legal character of a condition or condition of a person or a thing. It's not real. It's imaginary. Okay? Completely imaginary. And in the definition it actually shows that it's not law. It's given the force of law, which means it will apply to you if you consent. What does the word consent mean? Exactly. So what happens when you don't agree? It isn't law. Can't be given the force of law. By its own definition, it only applies to a person and not a man or a woman.
Okay. I hope this brings some light to what you think freedom really is. Okay. Thank you for watching.